Good afternoon, friends. I'm really delighted to be here, and I think a big thanks to the organizers to give me this opportunity to interact with the fraternity and share my concerns. I have been in the field of early childhood education for 4 decades, and one at times feels that one has pulled one's hair apart and still nothing seems to have happened. In the morning, when Nan was talking about Madame Montessori and paying tributes to her legacy of the pedagogy, I was just suddenly reminded, which I never thought, was that my mother in 1943 got the Montessori training and did that. Imagine how many years have gone that we have been at this business, and still, when we had the panel discussion, we were talking about what the badly run government schools or the centers of early childhood education. And I think this is a matter of great concern. Once again, I think the organizers are doing a great job of doing the 6th conference in a row to get all of us together here. I see a mix of people here. We are practitioners, academicians, we see the service providers, we really see the ones who run the whole show in terms of management and everything. And I think it's a great achievement, and I congratulate World Education for this kind of an effort, because at least it helps us make connections. And there is no other better way of learning when we are adults to learn from each other. And I think this became very, very obvious in the panel discussion which we were having, where everyone very emphatically kept saying their share, get together, let's be collated and one. Now, let me say that scientific, I don't have to really, with this august body, give rationale of early childhood education. But at the same time, I would like to say that there is enough scientific and neuroscience evidence available now about the criticality of this period. The moment we say it is a critical period, it becomes very important for us to really provide a supporting kind of an environment and an enabling environment which would make the child really grow and realize his potential. I'm reminded of the 2000 Dakar conference where everybody said education for all. But can you think of education without the first step of early childhood education? There would be no education without that. And that is why the first goal of that particular education for all was strengthen early childhood education programs, expand them in all nations, and believe it, many, many countries around the globe followed that and expanded their programs. By and large, when we talk of early childhood education, we get a little confused and our understanding gets limited to 3 to 6 years. We forget that learning begins at birth. And by the time the children come to you, they have already had lots of learning which has had a very serious impact on it. And that is why I think the morning great thing of releasing parent education thing, which I didn't get time to open and see, is a very integral part of early childhood education. Without any kind of parent advocacy, parent teaching, you will not be able to make any gains into it. I think the important aspect within the school environment or when they come to the preschool is to fully utilize that window of opportunity which we have. It's an opportunity of window because the rapid growth which takes place between 3 to 6 years is something which is very great. Now, I always like to quote Rabindranath Tagore's this particular quote, and I bring your attention to the last line. Infant bring again and again a message of reassurance. They seem to promise deliverance of light and dawn. This is what it is. Today's child is tomorrow's productive adult. children whom you are caring right now in your school are going to become what you make them. Did you see Nance ended with a poem saying you have such an impact on the child? So that is what it is. This is what we have to see. And I think it is responsibility of every citizen, every state and every government, every civil society member, every NGO, and every parent to give to the child the best so that you can really make them what they are capable of. Realizing their potential is something which is important. Now, let me tell you that the research has very clearly shown that putting them and shoving them into any kind of nursery setting or into a preschool is not going to result into really getting their full potential or their full abilities done. They need an environment which is called the quality. So the subject of quality in education has been a matter of discussion and a debate in the last few years with a lot of things. And I think we haven't still understood what really quality is, particularly in early childhood education. There's a lot of misconceptions. We think some bring a big standard, some bring scale. We will bring in measure those things. That's not like that, that you can universally global measure, use it everywhere. It has to be culturally really contextualized and made. So this is something which is a point of understanding. And you can understand that only if you really know how child development takes place. And I, as Dilip has already said, I have taught for years, and I want to quickly run through and tell you why quality should have this element, and it is related to certain principles of child development. Could I have the next slide, please? Next slide. Okay, you guys can just see this, but I'm going to only tell you that development is a continuous process. So what all is happening, even at this stage with me, is the result of what has happened to me earlier. This is all a product of that. So it is an interactive process. Mind you, you cannot grow in a vacuum. You remember those Ramu children who were left in somewhere in the jungle, and they never really learnt language, they never learnt anything. Why? Because it's an interactive process. And both nature and nurture really result in your making what you are. Now, the good quality ECE probably is needed because you need to give them environment with all these things which would give you all this interaction, opportunities, events, and so on. Next slide, please. I'm very fond of this ecological model of Bronfenbrenner. You would see that the child grows in a home, he leaves the home, there is an environment in the home, he goes to school, he goes to an environment and neighborhood, he goes into a community. Everywhere there are several factors which provide the enabling environment. It could be environment which could be damaging also. But if you have government policies which are favorable, if you have institutions which are good, if your cultural things help you in becoming a good citizen, good ideologies, good social values, which is the outer circle, it's all influencing. It's like opening the layers of the onion that you learn how things happen. So this is a very good model which tells what is most important at every stage. Next slide, please. The most important thing which I want to highlight here for you is that this is the evidence from the neuroscience which very, very clearly tells us that the first 5 years are most important for sensory pathways, language, and to great extent for cognitive development only. If you see anything beyond 7 years or 8 years, it's a very little part of the curve. It's only the higher cognitive functions which you do at a later stage. Everything else has already happened. So this is a point which has to be noted. Next, please. Normally, when we talk of ECE, we forget one important aspect, which Nan in the morning also talked about, and that was love and care and everything which so-called the director or the teacher has to give it. Care is an important component within every childhood program so that you could really get connected, and it is behavior and practices of the caregivers and the teachers which is really characterized by emotional responsiveness, attention, and affection. And I want to highlight this for you people because this will be something which would be reflected in the quality programs which we have. And I think that's and learning, of course, stimulation and all that we have discussed, developmentally appropriate curriculum, skill, and education. Next, please. Again, with a scientific mind of it, again and again, bring to everyone's attention that neuroscience has given so much of evidence that experience is very important. Every baby has a right to have stimulation and learn and build their own knowledge. Everyone has learning capacities, and this makes us appreciate that the quality of ECE is not something which we create for them. It is something where we encourage them to create knowledge for themselves also. Next, please. Next slide. It's a very important aspect. Early childhood education is at times very, very misunderstood by everyone. There are different kinds of models and which are universally recognized, and they have been given a name. The preschool now is called early childhood education or pre-primary, which takes care of 3 to 6 years and to which most of us belong to. Then there is the early below 3s where there is a play group, early childhood care centers, creches, and so on. And then we have 0 to 6 years, which is really a larger section of early childhood education, where you really take them from birth till the stage, till they go to the school, and ICDS is a good model for it, or a bad model in its implementation, but conceptually a very, very sound model because it takes care of even before the child comes to the thing. Next. The research evidence has very clearly said that only the quality package with appropriate curriculum, parent involvement, trained workers, supported by adequate supervisions, improves the child's attention, attendance, and performance in the school, and later performance in life. You see, the early childhood years are the years which have such a long-lasting impact that there are longitudinal studies done on Head Start, and I'm sure Ratna and Jaya would vouch for that, and if they know that those are the ones which have said long-term economic benefits. What you put into the early childhood education, a rupee, what return you get into it over a period of time is almost 20%, 7 to 20%. And the next slide, which is a very important slide, which is by next slide, please. This is the Heckman's equation of cost-benefit analysis of early childhood education, which clearly shows how much of return you can get it. The amount of money you spend on early childhood education is the smallest amount, but the returns which you get is much larger. It's 6 to 14% of return which you can get it. Next, please. Next slide. The Indian scenario, which is the right thing for all of us to think and get serious about it. I'm very, very pleased and I'm very happy that many of you got awards for some kind of rating which was done and you were considered the best, which is a very, very encouraging and a very inspiring kind of thing. And my congratulations to each of the awardees who have received this big award. But do we realize how many children are within these kinds of settings? They are not even 20%. The figure and the data, which is not very reliably available, but says that the private sector is not covering more than 20 to 30% of people. So what are we doing? We are losing how much of human capital? Forget it, it's not my child, it's not your child, it's not somebody's child, but they are the children of India. What would be India 25 years later? When we are comparing with China and we are saying we are going to be the youngest populated country with 25 years and we'll have all the workforce available to us, but workforce of what quality has to be really seen. Next, please. We have policies after policies. I'm not going to go through the list of it. I can only draw your attention to National Early Childhood Care and Education Policy and Framework, which came in 2013, just 2 years ago only. It has 3 parts to it. It has a curriculum, it has a quality standards, which are rightly like everything has been done in a participatory manner, but they haven't been installed properly, they haven't been rolled out properly, and very clearly it came up in the panel discussion that we are far away from using those standards, which would be really turned into state to state. And the other thing which is very important is that we are going to get an education policy under revision. Now, once the education policy is under revision, do you think all the children in the age range of 3 to 6 years would be not the responsibility of Ministry of HRD and they will still remain in the Ministry of Child Development? No. I think that would be one of the most disastrous things. We need a very strong lobby for it. Okay, next please. I'm just going to say we are in every way very good, but if you are aware of the right to education, which came as a right for every child in India in 2010, but they did not include younger age group in it, which is really a serious thing. That means 3 to 6 years have no rights to education, and they are not. Next. You have supportive bodies. We have professionals like Early Childhood Education Society, Early Childhood Education Forum. We have ARNIC, which also works in India. But I think there is no effort of, we all work in our own silos and we don't really interact. We don't know what is one hand doing. We do not know what the other hand is doing. So I think Child Alliance, which is also one of the organizations where I also work, is fighting for the rights of children in the early childhood education stage. Next, please. I'm just running through, drawing your attention. Only 20 to 25% children are covered by the private schools. What is the challenge? Next slide. The challenge ahead of us is that we are not having an access for all children. The quality of service is poor, both in public, private, and voluntary sector. And I'm sorry to say that I have to point out, at least the academia feels that the private schools at times are doing certain things which are not very in line with the child development principles. One is the formal learning, the interviews at the time of the interviews tests, and a very rigorous class assessment routine, which is followed in most of the schools, could be very, very damaging for the children. There are few excellent NGO schools or non-aided schools, but they cover very small proportion. They remain as examples and best practices. And we do not have any accreditation, regulation, licensing mechanisms and coordinating agency in our country. And I think this is something which we have been harping on, and I'm very happy that I decided to take this as a topic. We must dwell on to how do we resolve this process of, in a large country where you have 30 states, union territories, different languages, different service providers, to do some kind of a system where there could be some quality monitoring. If you want to have an ISO stamp, or when you buy food, you need a food qualification stamp, but when you send your children to school, you do not know where you are sending them. You go by the word of mouth that somebody said, "Aha, mera bachcha wahan gaya tha, that school is very good," and you do it, and you do little bit of search on your part, and once you put the child into school, you forget what is going on there. There is hardly much of a close interaction between parents and the school community. At times, the parents can become very demanding, and I'm sure many of you would echo my view that they think that if they have put it in your hands, the child, they have given high fee, everything should be becoming your responsibility. It's not like that. There has to be a connection between home and school, and there should be something which is a continuity and not something which is so different. So I think we have to really work on that front, and I'm going to really talk about little bit about it to sort out our thoughts and then think how we can really resolve it at our level. It's a big task. We cannot do it unless there is a regulation body at the national level, unless there are some framework of regulation provided, unless there is transparency in that to really do it, and we all have to join hands together. If we keep waiting for the government, let me tell you that it may not happen for another 2 generations. We have to probably, the civil society has to get together, and many of us as professionals, I look up to Swati for really doing something which has been really as a great pilot, I would say, to set up a accreditation body which can at least give parents some kind of a relief. They're putting their children into the right hands. And there is a continuous program of moving from the lower level to the higher level. Quality is not something which is static. It keeps changing. It keeps improving. So I think, next please. What? Please, next, okay. This slide has already been done. I've already talked about it. Okay. Next, this also I've talked. All right. I think we need to really have what we call a common curriculum also. The National Policy 2013 has prescribed a curriculum, but that curriculum was supposed to be contextualized by each state according to their own languages, their requirement, and so on. Nothing much has been done. Each one of you is probably following and evolving your own curriculum based on Western models or the best models of your own creation, but I don't know if it is developmentally appropriate for each child, for each stage. When you get children, you have clear sub-stages of development, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, which is a very different age. And in our classrooms, we normally divide them into nursery, lower KG, preparatory, or something, which is a very thoughtful thing. But if you have less number, sometimes we have to have what is called the multi-graded classrooms. Now, handling those alternate situations is a very, very difficult task. Any new person with not enough of early childhood background cannot do that. So I think that's and we don't have much of the cadre, which is called the cadre of early childhood education worker. And I think these are few important things which we must resolve over a period of time as early as possible so that we can make our journey towards the quality thing. Next please. One of the major things which is important in the quality is, what is the instrument which you would use to assess the quality of the school? Are there different dimensions? Will you use for infrastructure something else, for pedagogy something else, for teacher-child interaction and transaction something else? Will you assess children's outcome from the records they have? Have the school that kind of ability and skill to maintain all those? How would these be scanned and how would these be scrutinized before any certification or anything is a very difficult task. Some of the professionals have tried to make some attempt onto it, and I'll just take you through the journey without giving much, but a lot of work has been done. Just next, please. It started in 87 at NIPSID when I was there. We developed some indicators. Then minimum specifications by NCERT. Then if you people remember, some of them, you are from Maharashtra, you would know. In 1996, Maharashtra made an act of preschool centers which had to be withdrawn because it was so rigorous that it could not really get into operation and it was withdrawn. So you can see how the, next slide please. Then there were people both at SNDT and other places which they tried to make what is called early childhood environment scale. Because how would you know? It's a collation of certain elements within the school. You add the total and you have a maximum score which would determine whether the environment is good for the school or not. Then some of the people like us, we were in the Indian Association of Preschool Education, and then Tata Institute has the association for, they all got together and they said, let's really work out some kind of a scale which will help us to do some kind of assessment. They kept working on it, they set up a small task force, but we could not work because we had no money for it. How could you standardize certain tools unless they have gone through the rigor of research? So that work was really given up. Then, next slide, please. I think we have now some hope that the standards which the ministry has made, if they could be modified, adapted, and changed, because they have certain things which we discussed in the morning in the panel very clearly when we were saying, should private school be really regularized by government? This particular system is proposing a self-regulatory mechanisms. And if corruption doesn't come into it, and if we can set up the regulatory authorities at the state level, I see some hope that this would probably work out. And if professional organizations like Swati's and the others, he said, and others get together and put their heads together, maybe we would be able to work out some of the, next slide please. You see, there are some non-negotiable criteria, which is how many duration of hours the school should run, what should be the classroom size, what should be the amenities available, what should be the child ratio and the adult ratio. And these minimum requirements are considered to be the qualifying things for the service providers. Next, please. Next, this process I have already discussed. Next slide. Okay. Within the whole system which the policy is recommending, it is saying that each service provider is supposed to register itself with the state registering authority. They would be given a tool which they have to use it on themselves as a self-assessment tool. If they think they are doing good enough, they should really go back and say, we are ready for the assessment. An inspection body will come and inspect you. And then you can really see the inspection of the documents and see if you qualify. You would be given what is called either a accreditation and a certification, or you will be given 3 months to improve yourself. Now, at the conceptual level, everything seems possible and feasible. But in a country like ours, where systems go haywire in no time, I don't think so. I see anything of that kind happening by a central government doing it. It will not happen. It has to be some private agencies, some professional agencies, which would probably follow this kind of a system to establish these standards and support the system, which could be an annual evaluation or so on. Next. I come to almost the last slide. There is a very tardy progress to set up national councils and the state authorities by Ministry of WCD, and let me tell you, it will not happen for another 5 years. There is a lack of common understanding between the early childhood education quality issues. And the thing which bothers me the most is every parent has a right to send their child to a particular place. In the morning, I saw all the things which people were saying. Parents are smart enough to decide where to send their children. Why are you talking about quality? They know what quality is. When you go to buy your shirt or sari, you decide the quality yourself. The same way, you can decide quality yourself. But I think that can only happen if you have a very strong advocacy program to really match this demand and supply and still provide a good quality education, which is for everybody. It's an equity kind of thing which we have to do. It's very difficult to enforce if government does everything with the private sector and the voluntary sector, and we saw the reactions in the morning. So that is also one challenge. Then each domain has to be rated differently. Infrastructure is one part, curriculum is second part, teachers' skills is the third part, classroom transaction is the fourth part, children's outcome is another thing. Who is going to do all that? Please think of these things. My head is already taking circles in terms of knowing it seems sometimes it's not feasible, but we can probably do it. Parents' expectations don't match with what you as teachers or what I as professional tell them. They are full of aspirations. They think a 3-year-old child should be doing what they probably did it at the age of 10 or 12. Yes, there is an exposure, there is a lot of things in children, but that doesn't mean that we should really over-pressurize them, which is becoming a norm. I'm sorry to say. I think the regulation when it comes to Ashok Ganguly report gave such good criteria for what should be done with the curriculum and with the school. Who has applied that? It's not in operation at all. And the recent judgment which was given by Justice Jagmohan in Delhi when they were trying to do the admission quota stopped and everything. And I like the way somebody quoted it in they said, please set your own house in order before you make this kind of regulation. So I think the via media has to be thought in between, where we are not talking of private versus government, we are not talking of anything else, we are talking about children of India. And we are talking not only children of India who are in the elite, upper middle class or higher families who can afford for their education. There's so much which is every child's right, which we do not get. So I think the legal implication and violation would also be another issue, which is that we don't have any law for it. Having smart classrooms by smart board, having excellent furniture is not, my friends, the answer to quality ECE. You need a teacher, you need a person who is full of affection, love, understands the nuances of early childhood education to deliver a curriculum which has been given to that person. Everybody cannot. Making chapatis is the same thing. Same dough is given, everything is given, the gas is given. Do all chapatis come out the same way by everyone? No. If chapatis cannot come out the same way, how can you really see that a child is given to you with a responsibility to shape his future and make his future, and unless you are dedicated to it, you are upgraded in your ability from time to time, you have a supervisor who tells you where you have gone wrong, and you improve onto those things, nothing can happen. Next, please, next slide. I think I've gone ahead of the thing. I think we need a roadmap. And that roadmap can only take us to our end point. And I think smart programs are always good for malleable childhood, but we need to work very hard. I think I've overstepped my time, but I'm very passionately involved with the issues of early childhood education. And I thank you for your indulgence and your hearing.